Chewy.
A little.
So we did this a little while ago, a segment we called Star Wars News, and it was a lot of fun. We liked it. We got a lot of good reaction on it. So we're going to do it again because we've been waiting and we have enough news items now. We did try to come up with an intro for this, but we're so detached from Star Wars at this point that I was dry and couldn't think of an intro. Could you? Yeah, no. All right. So let's get right to it. There were a lot of rumblings all over the internet. They said we were going to get a trailer for episode 9 by Christmas. Big things were coming out, and that didn't happen. And what came out instead was a trailer for the new theme park attraction called Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars theme park pieces in both Disneyland and Disney World. It's about a 2-minute trailer, showed some of the rides and attractions and pieces and parts, and a little bit of interviews with the Imagineers from Disney. What did you think about that?
I liked it. I thought the Millennium Falcon was cool. I really liked that. And I saw that it can go into hyperspace, which was cool. I liked the park when they showed it kind of zoomed out. I really liked the park. I thought it was pretty. I kind of liked the part where they went inside this castle thing, and I don't know what it was. Was it made of sand? I don't know.
I don't know. The part I remember most was the Resistance one, where you were like in that the Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because as we started watching the trailer, you said, "Are there going to be rides?" And I said, "Yeah, you can actually, ride the Millennium Falcon." You're like, "The actual Millennium Falcon?" I said, "Yes." And then they started to show the segment, and you were like, "I'm not going to look. I don't want to see it," because you didn't want to ruin it. I'm like, "You can watch it." So you thought that was really cool. Interestingly, it centers mostly on the sequel trilogy. And I was talking to somebody about this. Mr. Jeff and I were talking about it. He's like, "Well, they're trying to bring in a younger, newer audience with that." And my only gripe on this is, yes, the Millennium Falcon's there, but they're using the Millennium Falcon sort of in its sequel trilogy existence because it exists there. There's not enough out of the original trilogy for me. It's too much sequel trilogy based, and that's not really popular as far as I'm concerned. And I think it's a mistake on Disney's part. And while they might be trying to seek out a younger audience, it's the parents. This is a poor business model because it's the parents who decide whether they're going to pay for and take a trip to Disney. And most of the parents, our generation, loves the original films, and I think it needs to have elements of that in it because we're the ones that are going to take it. It's like the movies. That's the problem with the movies right now is I'm still taking you because I introduced you to Star Wars and I feel an obligation to bring you. But if I didn't, having seen these new films, I'm not invested in them and I don't want, you know what I mean? So I'm of two minds about it. But I will say it does look cool. I'm sure the immersion factor, which means you're going to feel like you're actually there, you're in a different place, and they're going to play along with you. It's supposed to be like interactive, so you're supposed to feel like you're not at Disney World. You're at Galaxy's Edge. You're in the Star Wars universe. Yeah. So that looks really cool. The hotel, though, I mean, from what I saw per night to stay at the Star Wars hotel where it's like, again, you're immersed into that world, I could never afford to do that. We could go for one night and that would be it. So, I mean, because it's really expensive. So we'll see if that's the numbers I heard, the prices I heard originally, we'll see if that holds true. But as a trailer and as selling it, I mean, it definitely looked cool. You and Colton got very excited. For me, it's a little bit too much new trilogy, not enough old trilogy, but that's just me.
Hey, there's still that one ride.
Right, the original Star Wars stuff. Yes,
which I actually got picked to be the
Yes, you were the rebel spy when we went on the Star Wars ride. Yes. Okay, so as far as movie news, I've got this for you. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, is slated to film here in about a month. In February, Mark Hamill's got a couple weeks of shooting scheduled where he's filming. This adds to previous pieces that he's filmed, which would indicate that he's in the movie significantly more than normal Force ghosts. The Force ghosts we've seen in the past are Obi-Wan and then Yoda in the very last film. Obi-Wan was in very briefly in each film once he became a Force ghost, and Yoda had that one segment in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
It appears to me as though Luke will be in here significantly more than a Force ghost. It's also rumored that George Lucas is going to be directing a scene, and he's supposed to direct a scene sometime in February. That could mean that he'll be directing Luke Skywalker's scene or scenes, whatever those are. So I wonder what your thoughts were on any of that.
That sounds cool. I don't know though, because some of the, like Last Jedi was not that great.
With the way that, with regard to Luke, with the way they handled Luke, you mean,
Yeah.
so you're worried about what they're doing with this?
So I don't know what they're doing, but I wonder if he's going to be a Force ghost. He probably will be, but I don't know what they're going to do with
Right.
it.
I guess there was a talk show where J.J. Abrams and Mark Hamill were on there. That's Luke Skywalker and the director of
Yeah.
Force Awakens, and he's now directing Episode 9. They were on there, and Mark Hamill was suggesting to J.J. Abrams that perhaps Luke could still be alive, and I guess J.J. Abrams said, no, you're dead. So if he's back, it's got to either be as a flashback, which we haven't seen very much of in Star Wars, although the new trilogy's done that a little bit more, or he's a Force ghost, one of the two.
Yeah.
But to your point where you said you don't know what to expect because of the way they handled Luke in The Last Jedi, that's the other piece of movie news that I have for you. I've seen this from various sources, different articles, different places on the internet, basically saying that Episode 9, the new movie, will be resetting everything, the Star Wars universe. So not necessarily ignoring The Last Jedi, but sort of picking up on the plot threads that J.J. Abrams set up in The Force Awakens. He's going to kind of bridge over Episode 8 and tie back into those things that he set up. Rey's parents, Luke is perhaps training Rey, even if he is a Force ghost. Possibly some history to Snoke. All these mysteries, the mystery of the lightsaber, where the lightsaber came from.
Yeah.
All these things that were sort of set up in The Force Awakens and then either dismissed or reversed in The Last Jedi. They're talking about, going back and dealing with those, which I think they're going to do that in order to bring the fan base back together. They've got to tie the fan. Even though they've got this new fan base, and you've got people who did like The Last Jedi, you've somehow got to bring back some of the people who have abandoned Star Wars now because of what these two movies have done. In order, Disney's investing a lot of money in these theme parks. I mean, these are major portions of the theme park. And again, I said it before, you and your brother can't go there unless your parents take you. And your parents have to want to take you and want to spend that money to take you. We have to want to go there. We have to want to see that part of Star Wars. So they're going to have to do something to get us back involved.
Speaking of that hotel, sorry, can you still go in it even if you don't like sleep in it and stuff? Do you know?
That's a good. You know what? That's a really good question. We'd have to look into that. And I know some people who work down there. I will inquire and see if they have an answer, because I don't have an answer to that. But that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Okay.
Okay. Now, because there's not a lot of movie news to talk about. In fact, there's only one movie right now in the pipeline, and that's Episode 9. All the other movies have been shut down as far as production. There's no Obi-Wan movie going into production right now. Nothing like that. They're focusing completely on the television stuff.
That might be better.
Well, I think they're focusing on that to figure out what they're going to do with the movie side of the franchise, because they have to see what's going to happen with Episode 9, and they have to, maybe once Kathleen Kennedy's contract is up after Episode 9, they'll bring somebody in and they'll take it in a different direction. I don't know. They have started putting out these cartoons, these very brief 1-minute length cartoons called Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures. And we've watched them. It basically uses dialogue and music from the original trilogy, so episodes 4, 5, and 6. And it shows the characters in some different scenes that aren't necessarily scenes from the original trilogy, but using the dialogue. So, like, for instance, there's the scene with Han and Chewie on the Falcon, and the dialogue comes from when they were in the asteroid field in Empire Strikes Back. But that's not where they are in this Galaxy Adventures cartoon. But it's using that familiar music and the familiar vocal, the dialogue from the actual actors and the actual dialogue to kind of introduce perhaps the Star Wars saga to kids for the first time. Now, you were already familiar with Star Wars, and I don't. Colton was too, so I don't have little kids. I introduced you by introducing you to the original movies.
Right.
So for me, these things seem redundant. I don't get it. I'd rather show. Why not give you the whole candy bar instead of the Hershey's Kiss, right? I'll give you the Hershey bar, right? So I want to show you the thing. But what did you think about these cartoons? What?
I thought they were pretty good because they're short, so it's not like it's a big movie and you're just sitting there and then you get out of it. But they're short, so I like them, and they have a lot of the same characters. And not a lot of it is from like Rogue One and like.
No, they're definitely the original three films, the original trilogy. Well, I will say this: I think the animation is really, really. I love the animation. Love the look of it. Obviously, I love the music because it's the original music, and the dialogue coming from the actual actors and whatever. I like that. We'd watched a bunch of them and I didn't care for it. And then Mr. Jeff was sitting here with us the other day and we watched a little bit longer one, not much. It was about maybe 2 minutes long. And it was actually Luke going through the evolution of, almost what he goes through in the first three movies. And we sort of agreed, yeah, if my kid had never seen Star Wars before and I wanted to introduce it to my kid for the very first time, I might show him this. And that might, basically, dipping a toe in the water kind of thing. And it might work for that. With you guys, I didn't do that. This didn't exist. These cartoons didn't exist. So I threw you right in the pool and you watched, the original films. And you responded to that and it worked. So that's interesting. But moving beyond that, TV-wise, I can tell you that the one television show that they're working on, and Jon Favreau is sort of heading it up. He's a good director. It's called The Mandalorian. So Boba Fett is a Mandalorian. Comes from the planet Mandalore, has Mandalorian armor. This will be not Boba Fett, but somebody who looks like that, wearing Mandalorian armor. It basically looks like it's going to be his adventures in the universe. This person behind a mask that we maybe never see. And he has different adventures with people. The cast looks really interesting for it. Carl Weathers, I think, was rumored to be in it, who's an actor I love very much. I love his work. The person writing the music, some of the directors involved. So it seems like they're investing a lot of energy into The Mandalorian, but we don't know a lot about it. So for you, a character that's similar to Boba Fett, with a similar background perhaps to Boba Fett, having adventures throughout the galaxy, does that sound like something you'd be interested in watching?
Kind of. Not really, though, because I know Boba Fett is like, you don't see him much.
Right.
I know you like Boba Fett,
Right.
so I'm excited for you.
Right.
If you're
Maybe you bring up something that, the thing about Boba Fett that's cool is the mystery. We don't know a lot about him, but we won't know about this guy. This guy's going to go have adventures. The problem I think they might run into with this one is it's not Boba Fett. And so everybody's going to go, well, why didn't you just do Boba Fett? But I think leaving Boba Fett as a mystery would be better. We found too much out about Boba Fett during the prequels when we saw him as a little kid. It sort of destroys, the mystery that we had afterwards. I think this one shows promise if they handle it well. It strikes me as being similar to like a David Carradine in the Kung Fu show where he was a stranger in a strange land traveling from place to place and having adventures. It might work that way. The other TV show that they're talking about now is the guy from Rogue One, Cassian, who actually is killed off at the end of Rogue One, remember? Mm-hmm. He's going to get his own TV show, possibly with the robot, which is voiced by the guy from Firefly that voiced Mr. Know-It-All in Wreck-It Ralph. Oh. That robot, Alan Tudyk, or Tudyk. I don't know how to say your last name, I'm sorry. They're getting their own TV show. Thoughts about that? At least Cassian is. I don't know if the robot's going to be in it. If not, I'm not interested at all, but anyway.
I don't know, because that doesn't really sound interesting.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this one at all.
Yeah.
I'm with you. The only thing that would have a modicum of interest for me would be the robot, because the robot was hilarious in the movie. That's the only thing I remember about that movie is how funny the robot was.
I might like watch the first episode and then I'm done and not even want to finish the episode.
Yeah, his character was very fickle. He showed a certain kind of personality at the beginning of the film with the way he handled his informant. He eventually changed. He snapped around and jumped on the bandwagon with Jin very suddenly.
Yeah.
He perishes at the end of the film, so we know what's going to happen to him. This strikes me as if we're going to make a Star Trek The Next Generation movie now, and we know that Data perished before. I don't know. You can't go back. For me, I have trouble going back to watch The Next Generation TV show after seeing the movie Nemesis, because what happens to the characters in Nemesis I can't erase. So I have trouble going back and watching these. I don't understand this character getting a show. Of all the characters, go with a brand new character we've never seen before and take them in a different direction. But I don't get this. I'm not.
I don't feel like it's like Star Wars, because we know this guy, but he's not like one of the people like Leia or Luke that we've been with.
Right. So maybe we should be introduced to somebody completely new and follow them on a journey that we don't know the end of. We know what his end will be. In knowing that, it really affects your viewing pleasure moving up to that. For me, that's me. The last one you have no idea about, I'm going to tell you. This is canon now. There's a Darth Vader comic done by Marvel Comics. This becomes canon, which means it's true to the Star Wars universe. We never knew who Anakin's father was. In the first movie, they asked the mother, and she says, "I can't tell you. There is no father," whatever else. Now we know that the father is the Emperor. It's released that Emperor Palpatine manipulated the midichlorians and created Anakin. What do you think about that?
Wow. I guess that's how he got. I don't know. You're
speechless. Do you like that or do you not like it?
I don't really see the point of trying to tell you that, but I guess it's okay.
And I guess maybe they're trying to say that Darth Sidious, that's the Emperor, was manipulating all this from way back and created Anakin in order to eventually have him be Lord of the Sith and help him overthrow the Republic. There is something in Revenge of the Sith in the opera scene where they're at the opera and Palpatine is talking about Darth Plagueis and how Darth Plagueis could create life. So it's alluded to in there. As I understand it, there's a book about the art of Revenge of the Sith. And in the original screenplay, George Lucas's original screenplay, there was dialogue actually indicating that Palpatine, he says it to Anakin that he created him. He manipulated the midichlorians and created him. But that dialogue was cut. George Lucas decided he didn't want to come out and say it directly like that. But people have speculated about it for years, but now it's out there. And people are saying it's anticlimactic because we already knew it, but Darth Vader didn't know it, right? Anakin didn't know it. Now he knows it in canon. He's been told it. So it's interesting. I think it works on some levels for storytelling. On another level, it's still making the galaxy a much smaller place than it once was. The Star Wars galaxy was big and wide open when the first Star Wars movie came out. In the Marvel comics, like them or dislike them, the old ones from the 1970s and 80s, they explored that galaxy and went in all different directions and little pieces, parts, and sections of the galaxy that we never knew existed, but it was a wide open, large, huge playground. And we keep making that place smaller and smaller. When Darth Vader built C-3PO when he was a boy, it makes that galaxy so much smaller in some ways. While it's cool that it interlocks, it still makes it, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a huge playground,
Right.
has so many things, and now it's like a slide and a swing set.
Yeah, and it's very good. And it's these are very convenient coincidences, a lot of these things. That keeps coming back to these 5 or 6 main players that have a hand in this huge galaxy of events. So, well, that's the Star Wars news. Yummy news or crummy news for you?
I'm gonna go with actually edible news.
Yeah, I'm between edible and crummy.
Yeah,
Some of it, some of it's,
Decent.
some of it's. Yeah, it's edible. It's edible news for me. We have a I'm not sure feeling about this, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it.